Okay. What happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? It's a classic thought experiment, a paradox that has captivated philosophers and strategists for centuries. But what if this abstract concept played out on the grand stage of history? It's more than a riddle. It's a real historical clash, a collision of empires and wills that reshape the destiny of nations. Genghis Khan, the so-called punishment of God, a figure of immense power and unparalleled military genius, built an empire from the Pacific to Europe, an unprecedented feat of conquest and expansion. A tidal wave of conquest, sweeping across continents, leaving devastation and new order in its wake. But what if that wave crashed against a wall of sheer will? What if an empire, seemingly destined for domination, encountered an unyielding resistance? Enter Alauddin Khilji, Sultan of Delhi, a ruler of iron will and strategic brilliance. The immovable object, a leader determined to defend his kingdom against all odds. While empires fell to the Mongols, succumbing to their relentless advance and superior tactics, Khilji's India stood firm, a testament to his leadership and the resilience of his people. This is the story of two ruthless leaders, two titans of their time, whose clash shaped a continent, leaving an indelible mark on the course of history. It's about ambition, strategy, the art of war, and the delicate balance of power. And the fate of millions, the lives and livelihoods hanging in the balance as these two empires collided. How do you defend your home from the world's scariest army? How do you prepare for a force that seems unstoppable? How do you rule what you conquer? What are the challenges of maintaining power in a vast and diverse empire? Let's dive into this epic confrontation, exploring the strategies, the sacrifices, and the sheer will that define this historical moment. No dry dates, just the drama, the genius, and the legacies that still echo today, shaping our understanding of power, resistance, and the enduring human spirit. Meet the force and the object that defined an era, a clash that resonates even now. Before Genghis Khan was the universal ruler, a name that would echo through history, he was Temujin, a boy abandoned on the harsh Mongolian steppe, left to fend for himself in a world of unforgiving landscapes and rival tribes. Orphaned, enslaved and hunted, his early life was a brutal struggle for survival. Every day was a test of his will. Temujin learned early that unity meant survival, that strength lay not in individual prowess, but in collective action. He united the warring Mongol tribes, a feat thought impossible, forging a single, powerful entity from disparate groups. He inspired fierce loyalty, forging unbreakable bonds to himself and his vision of a unified Mongol nation. Through diplomacy, shrewd negotiation, and when necessary, ruthless warfare, he expanded his influence. He built a nation out of chaos, transforming a collection of nomadic tribes into a formidable empire. Genghis Khan's genius wasn't just in battle. It extended far beyond the battlefield. It was in organization, in his ability to structure and manage vast armies and territories. He created strict laws known as the Yasa and a revolutionary army structure that became the envy of the world. He implemented a decimal system, grouping soldiers in tens, hundreds, forming companies and thousands, creating regiments and divisions within his army. His cavalry, masters of horse and bow, were the backbone of his military might. They used speed, feigned retreats, a tactic that lured enemies into deadly ambushes, and psychological warfare to terrify enemies, sowing fear and panic before a single arrow was fired. The Mongols became the world's most feared military machine, a force that seemed unstoppable. They lured foes into traps, exploiting weaknesses with ruthless efficiency. Spread terror, creating a climate of fear that demoralized their opponents, and often won without a fight, their reputation preceding them and forcing surrender. Genghis Khan didn't just conquer, he laid the foundations for a lasting empire. He built a system that changed the world map forever, reshaping trade routes and cultural exchange. The unstoppable force was born from hardship and vision, a testament to the power of leadership and the will to survive. Now to India's vibrant plains, where Alauddin Khilji rose from obscurity to seize the throne of Delhi. Not the rightful heir, he clawed his way up, assassinating his own uncle to rule. Alauddin was a master strategist, using daring raids and ruthless ambition to build power. Once Sultan, he ruled with iron control, commanding respect through fear. His challenge wasn't uniting tribes, but taming a rebellious nobility and managing a complex kingdom. He confiscated lands, banned alliances, and built a vast spy network to keep nobles in check. Alauddin was more than a warrior. He was a state builder, obsessed with stability. He knew survival meant absolute control at home before facing threats from outside. This obsession with order set the stage for his showdown with the Mongols. The Mongol Empire, a vast and relentless war machine, driven by ambition and a thirst for conquest, cast its gaze upon the Indian subcontinent. Hungry for India's legendary riches and strategic location, the Mongol warlords launched a series of massive and devastating invasions into the heart of the Delhi Sultanate, seeking to expand their already sprawling empire. Tens of thousands of Mongol warriors, fierce and battle-hardened, swept relentlessly across the Indus River, their sights set on the jewel of India. They left a trail of destruction in their wake, sacking cities, pillaging villages, and spreading terror throughout the capital, threatening to engulf the entire region in chaos. The people of Delhi, once secure in their bustling metropolis, heard the thunder of countless hooves galloping towards their gates and saw the ominous plumes of smoke rising on the horizon, a grim testament to the approaching storm. But Alauddin Khilji, the Sultan of Delhi, a shrewd and resolute leader, didn't succumb to panic. Instead, he embarked on a strategic transformation, turning his kingdom into an impenetrable fortress, preparing for a long and arduous defense. He meticulously fortified the frontier, bolstering defenses along vulnerable borders, and raised a massive, well-trained standing army, ensuring their unwavering loyalty was only to him, the Sultan. He understood that this was not a battle to be won quickly, but a war of attrition, and so he played the long game, carefully calculating each move. On the battlefield, his astute generals skillfully exploited the local terrain and employed a range of clever and innovative military tactics, often drawing the unsuspecting Mongols into meticulously planned traps and ambushes. War elephants, the formidable tanks of the medieval world, were unleashed upon the battlefield, shattering the ranks of the Mongol cavalry with their sheer size and power. At pivotal battles like Amroha, Alauddin's well-prepared forces didn't just manage to repel the Mongol invaders, they decisively crushed them, inflicting heavy losses and breaking their seemingly invincible aura. Thousands of Mongol prisoners were taken captive, and brutal examples were made of them, serving as a stark deterrent to any future Mongol invasions. The seemingly immovable object of the Delhi Sultanate had not only successfully held its ground, but had also pushed back against the Mongol onslaught, defying their reputation for invincibility. The Mongols, who had been virtually unstoppable elsewhere across Asia and Europe, finally met their match in the resilient and strategically astute India. Alauddin's brilliant military strategy, coupled with the unwavering discipline of his forces, decisively turned the tide of the Mongol invasion. The fate of the Indian subcontinent, perhaps the wider world, was forever changed by this pivotal resistance. Genghis Khan and Alauddin Khilji fought wars in radically different ways. Genghis Khan's army was all speed and surprise. Nomads on horseback, firing arrows at full gallop, striking like lightning. They avoided direct clashes, using feigned retreats and encirclements to destroy enemies. His genius was in mobility, coordination, and psychological warfare. Alauddin, facing a different landscape, built his army for defense and brute force. He created a massive professional standing army, trained, disciplined, and always ready. His secret weapon, war elephants, terrifying Mongol horses unused to such beasts. Alauddin's strategy was to absorb the Mongol assault behind strong fortifications, then counterattack with heavy cavalry and elephants. It was anvil and hammer, hold, then crush. Two leaders, two styles, each perfectly adapted to their world. The clash was as much about ideas as armies. Conquering is one thing, ruling is another. Genghis Khan's empire was built on loyalty, mobility, and a shared Mongol identity. He created the Yam, a vast postal system, and made the Silk Road safe, connecting continents. Trade flourished, cultures mixed, and information flowed at unprecedented speed. His rule was surprisingly tolerant, so long as you submitted. Alauddin Khilji, meanwhile, focused on absolute control at home. He broke the power of the nobles, turning them into salaried officials. His state was a pyramid. Power flowed from him down, enforced by spies and strict rules. He controlled marriages, wealth, and even daily life. Genghis built a horizontal empire of connections. Alauddin, a vertical fortress of command. Both systems were revolutionary and ruthless. Their empires were reflections of their personalities. Armies and empires are expensive. How did these leaders pay for power? Genghis Khan's early wealth came from conquest, plunder, tribute, and taxes from conquered cities. As his empire grew, he shifted to protecting trade routes, taxing merchants, and creating a free trade zone under Mongol control. The Silk Road became a river of wealth, funding further expansion. Alauddin Khilji couldn't rely on endless conquest. He overhauled the Delhi Sultanate's economy, fixing prices and maximizing tax collection. He imposed heavy taxes on farmers, stored grain in state granaries, and kept food prices low to pay his army. Markets were tightly controlled, and punishments for cheating were severe. It was harsh for peasants, but it kept the army loyal and the capital fed. Two economic visions, one outward, one inward, both designed for survival. Their financial genius was as important as their military might. How do we remember these giants today? Their legacies are double-edged. Genghis Khan is seen as both a ruthless destroyer and a unifier who connected East and West. His conquests brought devastation, but also trade, technology, and the Pax Mongolica. In Mongolia, he's a national hero, elsewhere a symbol of terror. Alauddin Khilji is remembered as the savior who stopped the Mongols and as a tyrant. His reforms and armies preserved India's independence, but his rule was harsh and oppressive. He brought order, but at a human cost. Both men force us to ask, does the end justify the means? Their stories are not simple tales of good or evil. They challenge us to think about power, leadership, and legacy. So what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? In India, the object held. Genghis Khan and Alauddin Khilji show there's no single path to power, only adaptation. One built on movement and unity, the other on control and defense. Their stories remind us, true leadership is knowing which strategy fits your world. History asks us, what price are we willing to pay for security or ambition? These aren't easy questions, and the answers aren't simple. The clash of these titans is a mirror for our own choices about power and leadership. What kind of leader would you be?